Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I directly come to my topic, that is the solution of poverty according to Risale-i Nur. Poverty and human beings have somehow maintained a coexistence always throughout the history. Since time immemorial till date, they hardly witnessed a complete separation despite the extreme hatred and grudge the latter has been sustaining for the former. The justifications for human being in maintaining such behavior towards the latter have not been without sound reasons though. Poverty has acted always as a merciless and inextinguishable foe of human being. It has prevented human being from dousing the flames of belly, covering the hapless naked body, and has left him in the open all alone to face the fury of the nature, to mention only a few basic felonies from its records of crimes. As a natural corollary of the merciless nature of the poverty and the insatiable human desire for a better life, this coexistence has never been peaceful. Human intellect has always been absorbed in devising ways to defeat this seemingly invincible foe, and came up in different contexts of space and time with different discoveries, inventions, innovations, institutions, theories, isms, etc., etc., with the twin objectives of subduing the poverty and bettering the standards of life, which underline almost every significant human effort. It goes without saying that human efforts bore fruit and registered success. However, the success has never been absolute and comprehensive due to the maddening unfathomableness of the nature, factors and forms of the phenomenon called poverty generally or specifically, and the limitations on the human intellect and effort. The degree of success has always been proportionate to the degree of effectiveness of the weapons to fight poverty, and their implementation, both of which evaded perfection, as accounted for above. Ironically, many a time the very weapons designed to vanquish poverty worked opposite and caused misery and poverty. And most of the time, one set of solutions proved to be effective somewhere, sometime, but proved otherwise are not as effective in different contexts of space and time. Consequently, the human dream of annihilating poverty did not see the light of the day and remains a bitter fact even today. It is in this special backdrop of the limited capabilities of human intellect and effort to come up with a comprehensive solution of poverty, the failure of man-made theories to offer a lasting solution of the problem, and the inability of models based exclusively on material aspects to heal the deep wounds of the same, that an alternative mechanism for solution of poverty based on divine guidance and spiritual considerations assume unparalleled importance. Risale-i Nur provides insights into such a divine and spiritual framework of the solution of poverty. A cursory reading of the Risale-i Nur, a tafsir collection written by the great Islamic Turkish scholar and thinker, Said Nursi, reveals that it propounds a spiritual framework of the solution of poverty. Said Nursi emphasizes on the necessity of inculcating universal human and Islamic values and implementing Islamic economic teachings, especially the obligation of zakat and prohibition of usury, in order to usher in a real and comprehensive prosperity and happiness. The Risale-i Nur framework outrightly rejects the European model of industry and progress that focuses exclusively on material aspects, entrenches in mankind this worldliness, and promotes irreligion. Nursi clears two misconceptions about the causes of poverty of Muslims. Firstly, he says that Muslims are poor not because they do not love the world or they do not think about poverty, but because their greed has increased. Greed is the reason of their poverty. because for Muslims, greed causes loss and indigence. Secondly, he says that it is not right to say that nations' poverty is the result of a sort of religious asceticism or of laziness arising from abandoning the world, because the nations dominated by Europe, such as China, the Brahmins and Zoroastrians of India, and the blacks of Africa are poorer than we are. Said Nursi exhorts all human beings in general, and Muslims in particular, to exercise frugality in their life. He cites a hadith, the meaning of which is, the thrifty will suffer no family difficulties as regards livelihood, to derive home the point that frugality guarantees just livelihood. He says that frugality has three benefits. Firstly, the frugal and economical person will not suffer undue trouble and hardship in supporting his family. Secondly, frugality yields plenty and good living. Thirdly, frugality is useful in eradicating poverty. Frugality guarantees success. The Quran says, there are two verses. First, indeed, it is God who gives all sustenance, Lord of all power and strength. The second verse, and there is no moving creature on the earth, but its sustenance is provided by God. Said Nursi says that these two verses of the Quran guarantee sustenance to person if he is frugal and restricts his needs to the essential. However, he divides the sustenance into two kinds. First is the true sustenance, which is enough to subsist on. Second is the metaphorical sustenance, due to which and its abuse, inessential needs become like essential ones, and owing to the calamity of custom and tradition, people become addicted to them and cannot give them up. These two verses guarantee only the first kind of sustenance, that is, true sustenance. Refuting the accusation of some dissolute and extravagant people that the frugal and economical person are mean and stingy, Said Nursi says that this is not true. There is merely a superficial resemblance. Just as humility is praiseworthy and servility bad, dignity praiseworthy and haughtiness bad, in the same way frugality is praiseworthy and stinginess bad. He further says that stinginess and meanness are the inner face of the apparently noble qualities of the wasteful and extravagant. As a direct opposite of frugality, wastefulness, according to Risale-i Nur, must be avoided at any cost, as the person who is not frugal and is wasteful is certain to be abased and reduced to poverty and in effect to begging. More gravely, excesses and wastefulness lead to greed that leads to three consequences. They are dissatisfaction, disappointment, and loss, distraction of sincerity. Risale-i Nur quotes two generalizations in order to prove the effectiveness and necessity of zakat and harmfulness of usury. The first deals with the basis of peace, while the second regards the root of clash and immorality. The first generalization says that a given society consists of two classes. Upper and lower classes are the rich and the poor. The two classes remain at peace when the society is in equilibrium. The equilibrium in society comes into existence only there is compassion and kindness in the upper class and respect and obedience in the lower class. The second generalization says that the root of clash and immorality are two phrases. The first phrase, so long as I am full, what is it to me if others die of hunger, is the source of all clashes, while the second phrase, you walk so that I can eat, is the origin of our immorality. Islam restores the equilibrium of society and strikes at the root of clash and immorality by mandating the servanthood of the master, imposing the obligation of zakat, and prohibiting usury. A hadith says, the master of a people is its servant. Another hadith says, The best of people is the one most useful to people. These two hadiths are enough to instill in an upper class person a sense of responsibility towards a lower class person. Check the despotic tendencies of the former or the latter, and assure the honor, dignity, and respect of the lower class. A verse in the Quran says, "Be steadfast in performing the prayers and give zakat." Another verse reads, "God has permitted trade and forbidden usury." These two verses have dealt a death blow to all sources of clash and immorality by imposing zakat and prohibiting usury. Risale-i Nur offers a spiritual framework for the solution of poverty. It rejects the irreligious and immoral model of progress by the West. It asserts that we will have to implement Islamic teachings in our life if we want to get rid of strife, anarchy, immorality, and poverty. The values which have been specifically stressed in the whole framework are strict adherence to Islam, righteousness, discipline, security, cooperation, frugality, dignity, sincerity, contentment, just striving, thankfulness, love, happiness, compassion, and kindness. All these values sum up the spirit of Islamic teachings in general and economic teachings in particular, in which obligation of zakat and prohibition of usury hold vital positions. Thank you very much.